Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I'm DylanLasagna and welcome back to another recap of the 2022 NFL season. And this week, man, this last week, I really can't put it into one word or even multiple words because it was just that insane. It was that crazy. It was wild. There was a lot of games that made you mind blown. That really fucked up your mind this week. Really made you think. If you're a fan of one or multiple of these teams that were on the winning end or the losing end, you're probably feeling something coming out of this past week because that was insane. That was it was chaotic. It was a really chaotic week, and certainly by far, if not the undisputed best week of football that I've seen this season. I mean, of course, we still have the playoffs to keep in mind, but this week was just crazy, absolutely crazy. So let's talk about the week that was Week 15. We kicked things off on Thursday Night Football, only on Amazon Prime Video for that $15 a month, as my San Francisco 49ers got that $15 a month treatment behind that paywall, as their defense harassed and rattled Geno Smith all night long to help out their quarterback, who wasn't coming in healthy in Brock Purdy, and he overcame. And he even looked like he had injuries going into that game. And he overcame a little bit of some rookie mistakes for some big plays as the Niners clinched the NFC West in a season sweep of the Seattle Seahawks 21-13. So, yeah, feels good. Feels good to be NFC West champs, I suppose. Then the madness ensued. Starting in some Saturday primetime action on NFL Network. Starting in the early morning game with the Minnesota Vikings and the Indianapolis Colts. Someone explain this to me, huh? Someone explain to me this freaking game. I was at work, minding my own business, and I see during my break time, the Colts were up 33-0 at halftime. They were seemingly on their way to shaking off the stink of that embarrassment last time they were playing against the Dallas Cowboys on a Sunday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings were pretty much shooting themselves in the foot to an embarrassing loss themselves. And this, yeah, like I said, this was 33-0 at halftime. But then all of a sudden, the second half comes around. A bunch of splash plays by Kirk Cousins in the offense. Matt Ryan and his own offense can't do shit in the second half all game long. And the Vikings, all of a sudden, get back in it. They outscored the Indianapolis Colts 36-3. And it was tied 36-all with 2 minutes left to go in the game. And they go to overtime. Yes, this game actually goes to overtime. And just like in the second half, like I said, Colts can't do shit in overtime. And they allowed Kirk Cousins to make a critical play to Justin Jefferson to set up a game-winning field goal for Greg Joseph with 3 seconds left to go in the extra period. And the Vikings complete the largest comeback in NFL history. Yes, they surpassed the comeback way back in the 1990s by ironically Frank Reich of the Colts, who was fired for Jeff Saturday. And anyway, the Vikings clinched the NFC North by completing the largest comeback ever seen in NFL history, even though they shot themselves in the foot to get to that point. And yeah, they beat the Colts 39-36 in overtime. Like, what the frick, man? Are you serious? Like, really? The Colts, man? Man, I kind of feel bad for Matt Ryan, man. First, there was 28-3 in the Super Bowl. Now, it's 33-0. 33-0 in a regular season game. Like, come on. Now, the football calls really hate Matt Ryan. They really do. So anyway, in the afternoon game, that just couldn't follow up. What the frick just happened? The Browns defense and the special teams became the focus in the second half during a pivotal AFC North matchup as they forced an interception, a fumble, and a blocked field goal on 3 straight drives on the Baltimore Ravens, while constantly keeping Tyler Huntley and the offense away from the end zone in an upset of sorts for the Cleveland Browns as they beat the Baltimore Ravens 13-3. And they actually got a decent game out of Deshaun Watson. So, hey, they keep their very small hopes at a playoff berth alive, but hey, they got some promise for next year. Like a little bit of hope for next year, I guess. Then in the nightcap, the craziness continued to ensue, resumed as a highly anticipated rematch lived up to the hype. Josh Allen, the offense, overcame some miscues in the second half to tie the game with 8 minutes to go and engineered a 5-minute clutch drive as the snow started falling down in the night to set up Tyler Bass's game-winning field goal and clinch their playoff spot in the snow, 32-29 over the Miami Dolphins. And they're 1 win away from clinching the division, just like that. Man, how are we going to top off? How are we going to follow up what just happened on that Saturday night? Well, let's look at the Sunday slate, shall we? Starting with the early morning portion of the games, which didn't really have that many exciting games, except for one. The New Orleans Saints, they used their offense with some splash plays to jump out to an early 21-0 lead over Atlanta, but with just a little over 10 minutes to go, Desmond Ridder, making his first start, led the Falcons down the goal line as Cordell Patterson punched it in, along with a 2-point conversion to cut their lead down to 3. But New Orleans' running game and Ridder's weird rookie mistake of no Hail Mary, just running it down, it iced it for the New Orleans Saints as they held on to beat the Falcons 21-18. The Steelers used ball control, strong defense, and their MVP, Mitch Trubisky, to not only run up the scoreboard, but keep Sam Darnold and the Kitties in Blue in check, away from the field for much of the game and out of rhythm, as the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Carolina Panthers 24-16 in a game that, honestly, Carolina really needed if they wanted to keep their hopes at the NFC South alive. Despite 2 interceptions, Jalen Hurts still efficient in the air with over 300 yards, rushed for 3 touchdowns, along with being aided by multiple sacks from his defense to counteract Justin Fields' record-setting rushing day, as the Eagles escaped a much closer than expected game against the Chicago Bears 25-20. But here's the other thing. Here's the other aspect of it. Turns out that Jalen came out hurts from that game with the sprained shoulder that could keep him out a few weeks. It's uncertain that he plays against the Dallas Cowboys this Saturday on a pivotal matchup where they have an opportunity to clinch the NFC East and the top seed in the NFC East. So if you can't go, it's Uncle Rico time, baby. Gardner Minshew. Y'all remember him? Yeah, Uncle Rico coming in to save the day if he can to play that pivotal matchup. So there you go. Anyway, the Chiefs overcame some bad turnovers and plays to take advantage of the Texans' own fumbling mistake by Davis Mills in overtime. Yes, this game actually went to overtime. This wasn't like the game that I thought was going to get switched out by CBS by halftime. But yeah, any given week, I guess. As Jerick McKinnon put the end to the Texans' try-harding in this game with a game-winning touchdown run, and the Chiefs clinched their 7th straight AFC West title in a win over the Houston Texans 30-24 in overtime. Dallas crawled to a 17-point lead up until the third quarter, where the Jaguars scored 24 unanswered points to get back in the game before Dallas retook the lead and seemingly had the game. But the Jaguars forced a 3-and-out, tied it to force overtime, where Rayshon Jenkins, the safety, picked 6 Dak Prescott to score a huge upset for the all-elite Jaguars, 40-34 in overtime. And yeah, all of a sudden, the all-elite Jaguars right on the heels of the Tennessee Titans, even more in the AFC South, and they're looking red hot in that division right now. The Jets seemed on the verge of getting their footing back in the wild card race, even with Zach Wilson playing average, starting for Mike White. But Jared Goff's touchdown, the tight end, Brock Wright, after the 2-minute warning, along with Greg Joseph's missed game-time field goal, along with also, I forgot which receiver was it that ran backwards out of field goal range that caused the missed field goal. It only amplified the Lions' chances as the Detroit survived the slugfest with the Jets 20-17. And lo and behold, the Lions staying alive. But the Jets, oof. Going to the late afternoon portion of this crazy week 15, well, there was at least one game where nobody gave a fuck about, and that was the Denver Broncos taking on the Arizona Cardinals, because there's a lot of offensive ineptitude on display, but Denver broke it open in the fourth quarter with Brett Rippon ripping it open with some scoring plays by Latavius Murray, and ripping it open to Eric Tomlinson, and some solid defense to close out an inferior Cardinals team that lost Colt McCoy to concussion and took out third stringer Trace McSorley. And yeah, the Broncos took down the Cardinals 24-15 to eliminate them from playoff contention. Then there was this game. That seemed destined to go to overtime. The Patriots, they came back after being down 17-3. They used their swarming defense and running back for Ramondre Stevenson. But then Derek Carr threw a touchdown late to Keelan Cole, tied it up with 40 seconds left to go. And just when you think they were going to go to overtime, the Patriots were going to just march down, get an extra play in, try to do something or run out of bounds. But no, Ramondre Stevenson tries to make something magical happen. They try to do their own Miami miracle, try to reverse engineer that shit. But then they throw it backwards. To Jacoby Myers. And then Jacoby Myers throws it even more backwards. And then everything that they tried to do on their Miami miracle ends up going to shit. It goes to Chandler Jones. Jones trucks Mac Jones's ass, and then he picks six the failed lateral all the way to the end zone, and then the Raiders, on a freaking improbable play, win the damn game, 30-24. You can't make this shit up. You literally can't make this up. The Patriots were in a position to go to overtime where you never knew who was gonna win in that extra period, but to lose like that, that's embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing. You don't deserve to go to the playoffs at all. You already had an inferior offense, and then you lose that way. To the Raiders. My God. Absolutely embarrassing. Anyway, next game. For the next game between the Chargers and the Titans, it can be defined as either strong defenses by both teams or both offenses not being able to finish drives for different reasons. But man, Ryan Tannehill led his offense to a game-time drive with a minute left. But then Justin Herbert proceeds to rip the hearts out of Tennessee right then and there and get his team into field goal range, where Dicker, the kicker, won the game as the Chargers beat the Titans 17-14 to put themselves in prime position to clinch a playoff spot next week. So for as offensively inept as the Chargers can be at times, they have set themselves up to get Justin Herbert's first playoff appearance. Down 17-3 at halftime, Joe Burrow and the Bengals capitalized on repeated mistakes and self-inflicted wounds made by Tom Brady and the Bucs in the second half to outscore them 31-6 and sink their ship as the Cincinnati Bengals downed Tampa Bay 34-23. My God. As if the implosion by the Bucs by my 49ers wasn't bad enough. This was so bad by them. This was so bad by Tampa Bay. Then in the Sunday Night Football game, to close out the Sunday slate, the Giants defense, notably Kayvon Thibodeau, constantly kept the heat on Taylor Heineke, forced him into mistakes all night long. And with the game on the line, The Giants held the fort at the goal line, albeit with some bad officiating. There was a very notable pass interference, no call, to prevent yet another overtime period between these two teams, as the big boys in blue got the win, an important playoff tiebreaker between the Giants and the Commanders, but the Giants prevailed 20-12. Then in the Monday Night Football game to close out Week 15, this chaotic Week 15, that ended on a whimper between the Packers and the Rams. And let me just say this right now. Someone on Twitter, I'm not going to say who, said that Monday Night Raw would beat this freaking game, even if it was bad in viewership. Like, are you high as fuck? But anyway, the Green Bay offense uses the two-headed attack of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, both who combined for all 3 Packers touchdowns, while the defense caused Baker Mayfield to crash back down to earth as the Packers kept their slim hopes alive for the playoffs and eliminated the defending yet very disappointing Super Bowl champions from contention 24-12. So those were your games from a wild Week 15 of the 2022 season. And man, this was crazy. Honestly, the best season, not the best season, the best week for this season in ever. Like, in this season. Like literally no words for it. There are literally no words to describe it. And it's only going to get crazier if these final 3 weeks, like literally, the race to the playoffs is only getting crazier. Like I said, as December started, this playoff race is only going to get even wilder. It's going to get even more intense. So I don't know how you follow up this week, this week 16, as we get to Christmas Eve. Like, how do you even follow this up? Does it get even more insane, or does it get milder? Hey, that's why there's an old saying, any given week, any given Sunday. That's what makes sports, like actual sports, not like modern day pro wrestling. Like those people that say, oh, Raw is going to beat and if the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers on a late ass Monday Night Football. Yeah, Rhea Ripley wrestling Akira Tozawa. Yeah, that's not going to beat Aaron Rodgers for as bad as they are in the viewers. This can be unpredictable any given week, any given Sunday. So anyway, this is a very unpredictable week. Now let's get into the winners and losers of Week 15. Starting by winners, the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, despite all the injuries that they suffered on defense, despite all the injuries that they had on offense, they battled. They battled to get back in this game. They really took advantage of the self-inflicted wounds that the Bucs were committing on themselves, and they struck like the tiger. They feasted on the opportunity. Like, it took them it took them a while for them to get in the game, because they shot themselves in the foot during the first half with not being able to get enough plays in the Bucs territory, or like Joe Burrow taking some unneeded sacks. But once they started making the Bucs make their own mistakes, they struck. Joe Burrow was efficient. Jamar Chase finally got catches in, and Burrow even spread the ball around to T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and another receiver I don't really remember the name of. But either way, they managed to claw back and even keep the Bucs and Brady in check. So good on Cincinnati. And now they lead the AFC North, because Baltimore is really struggling right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars, you got to give them credit for Trevor Lawrence and how he played. He looked really efficient against the Dallas Cowboys. He attacked a defense that's really struggling with injuries right now in the secondary, and he just absolutely attacked it in that game. So even though they were down like 17, it seemed like they never really were worried about it. They didn't really give up, and the defense like caused some turnovers on Dak, with the 2 interceptions, including the game-sealing pick 6. So the Jaguars doing all they can, but they can't let up against their next slate of opponents if they want to stay in the fight against the Titans for the AFC South. I'll give credit where credit is due, even though their play has been on and off. The LA Chargers, I guess, only because, for as much as their offense has been inconsistent, aside from Justin Herbert, they are actually in a prime position to get the playoff spot, especially this week. Considering they played the Colts on a Monday night, and then look at their opponents, the Jets and the Patriots. They're in a position to get the first wild card spot this week. So the Chargers are definitely winners because they set themselves by winning against the Titans. They put themselves in a spot to get the first playoff spot, the wild card spot at least this week. Now for the losers, like the Indianapolis Colts. Like, really? What was that? Like what the hell was that? Like, after Jonathan Taylor left the game in the third quarter with the ankle injury, never to return, there was no running game. The rest is basically like the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Like, they basically had to throw the ball, and the Vikings were basically all over the passing attack and got to Ryan all game long since that point. And it is just so baffling. It is just so baffling how the Colts continue to keep embarrassing themselves like this. It really is. It just goes to show that Jeff Saturday, as respectful as I could say it, is not qualified. Is not qualified for this job. The New England Patriots, I don't know, I don't know what happened on that play, why that happened in the first place. Why was Jacoby Myers having that ball catching that ball by Ramondre Stevenson? Why didn't Ramondre Stevenson just slide? Why couldn't they just take it to overtime? Did they go into business themselves? Did they turn heel on Bill Belichick? Why? Now they just cost themselves a chance to get in the postseason, even though they don't deserve it, because their offense is so bad. And that was just a bad way to lose a football game. And then the Washington Commanders, they had 2 weeks to prepare for this game against the Giants, but it just seemed like that offensive line wasn't able, wasn't in sync, and they couldn't protect Heineke from Kayvon Thibodeau, who was just a one-man wrecking crew. 2 weeks to prepare for that Giants pass rush, and there's nothing. There's nothing. So those are your winners and losers of Week 15. And now for my quick 2-minute hurry-up discussion of the week, because we are really running big on time. I'm going to talk about this intensifying playoff race because, as I said, December is really the time where the playoff spots are really starting to churn up. The heat is starting to pick up. And Week 16 and Week 17, I feel like is really the point in time where it's going to intensify even more. If you go onto even if you see a post on social media where they show what's going to be eligible to clinch in Week 16, yeah, the stakes are really high. These next couple weeks, the Eagles can get the top seed, but they're not going to have Jalen Hurts. The Bills can clinch the AFC East, but they're going to be also playing in less than ideal conditions against the Bears in Chicago. But that's something they've already faced against the Dolphins a couple days prior. The 49ers, even though they've clinched the NFC West already, they still have something to play for. All these other teams at the bottom, they are still playing for something, but the ones holding the cards, the wild card spots, they have to the wait. The ones in the outside looking in, they're basically hoping and praying that one or the other wild card like teams, if it started today, they slip up and they screw around. So this is going to be a very must-watch 2 weeks coming soon to a viewer in you. So I'm excited. I'm excited for these next 2 weeks. Week 16, it's going to be a Christmas bonanza. It's going to be the gift that keeps on giving in Christmas weekend. Christmas Eve games, Christmas Day games, and then a Christmas after game with Chargers and Colts, I guess. So anyway, this is Dylan Lasagna, a very cold lasagna. And that was your Week 15 recap for the 2022 season. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.